What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 151, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about Unity is hurting indie devs, Starfield is selling consoles, Game Pass Core launches tomorrow, and Embracer might be selling Gearbox. But before all that, we got to introduce my co-host, Jampack Sam. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? Doing very well. I am excited to be here as always, and we have a lot of good stuff to dig into. But I think you and I both have still been cruising the stars, like we've just
Oh,
been
yeah.
out there living the Bethesda life. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yes. I have a lot to talk about when we get to the what you playing section. Let me tell you about I think I'm like 30 plus hours in at this point.
Oh, yeah.
35 something. I'm going, man. I got things to say, so we'll get there. But if you're new here, this is an Xbox podcast. We're live every Thursday, usually right here on YouTube. It's a Wednesday show. I got a little something going on tomorrow. We post every Friday morning on your audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review, whether it's Apple, Spotify. It does help us in the algorithm. And we are participating in Extra Life for our friends over at the Phoenix Overdrive once again this year. Our Extra Life link is in the description down below. If you can donate and help sick children, we would greatly appreciate that. You've been entered to win some prizes. I haven't announced the prizes yet. That's coming soon, but if you get your donations in, you'll be automatically entered when we do announce those prizes. If you want to support us further, get early access to Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Bucky Blue, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher, Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, and Lee Navarro. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Sam, we're getting right into it. So let's go to what have you been playing, my friend?
So on my end, I have been continuing to play Starfield, but it has taken a bit of a backseat this week. Number one, just been busy doing the life stuff. Work's been kind of crazy, life's been kind of wild. So we've just been, putting gaming on the back burner a little bit. But in addition to continuing to do the side quest and things that are going on in Starfield, I had the chance to dive into the Crew Motorfest. I talked about that a
Oh,
little bit, yeah, on Twitter. I shared a couple of posts. But shout out to Ubisoft for providing me a copy of the game, Ubisoft partner. So they did give that access to me a couple of days early, and I've been diving in, and I can't wait to share my thoughts later on in the week. I think there's still a little bit of an embargo going on right there, but I have been
okay.
diving in. Can't confirm that. So
This
that's where
is
I've been spending my time.
this is one of those embargoes you can say you're playing it, but you can't
Correct.
say how you feel about it. Okay,
Yeah, and
gotcha,
quite
gotcha.
honestly, I might be able to say how I'm feeling about it, but I haven't had time to check the embargo notes, so I'm just gonna play it safe and not
Better
risk.
safe than
Yeah,
sorry.
because I
That's
do want them to give me a free copy of Mirage in a couple of weeks. So we're not
ooh,
gonna sever that relationship, and we're
yeah.
gonna keep it going.
Yeah. Can't blame you. Can't blame you. Well, let's talk about Starfield some more because I have been playing. Like I said, I think I got 35-ish hours in around there at this point. I have completed the main story, so I rolled credits on it. I have completed 3 out of the 4 main faction quest lines. So I've done Crimson Fleet, UC Vanguard, and the Freestar Rangers. I'm working my way through the Ryujin Industries. Mixed feelings on the side content. For me, I think the Vanguard is the best one by far. Some people, my brother, would disagree with that. I think the Crimson Fleet is probably my least favorite, but I think it depends how you want to play this game. Like there was a lot more space combat in the Crimson Fleet, so if you're into that, like maybe that's where you want to go. Also, they're like space pirates, and that's not really my jam. I was trying to do theirs completely undercover. The UC Vanguard got mad at me. They're like, "You killed civilians, you're done," and I'm like, "Yo, bro, I had to do what I had to do. I was undercover, dog. Like." Trying to live my best life here. So we're making it work. Just wrapping up some side quests. I'm going through my quest log right now, just knocking off all the things. This is probably the smallest my quest log has been. But then I open up my activities and it's like a giant list of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the activities can definitely roll. I'm currently doing the UC Vanguard side quest line, and so that's where I'm spending the majority of my time. That's where I've been spending a little bit of time I've had this week to dig in,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of grinding through that, which I'm enjoying it. I'm still like I'm hooked on Starfield, but also like there are so many games that are coming out. Like I know Lies of P reviews came out today, and so that's getting
Hmm.
really, really good impressions and reviews, and so that's one that I want to check out. People are calling it like one of the best From Software likes or Souls like games that have come out. So it's Starfield is as intended going to be a long burn for me or a slow burn for me, where it is the game that I keep coming back to, like Skyrim, because like you said, the activities quest log is always full of stuff, the side quest, the main quest, you're never going to run out of stuff to do.
Yeah, Starfield. Right now, there's Legend of Neuda, which is a JRPG I'm looking forward to. Comes out next week, but even that's like a 12-hour JRPG. So I'm like, I could play that while playing Starfield. It's really not like the way I'm looking at it, I'm like Starfield. I probably have until almost the end of October when like Sonic and Mario and we start getting that wave of games. So I'm in it for the long haul. I think I'll probably have like 100 hours in this game very very soon in the next couple weeks. So I'm in. I'm loving it. I am noticing more flaws as I continue to play.
Same.
My big one is probably stealth. I don't think stealth is very good in this game. You basically, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but like I'm crouching, I'm walking slow behind them, and then you just always get spotted. It's very frustrating. I'm like, you can't even see me right now. Like, what was I literally have someone looking the other way, and then they're like, "What was that?" I was like, "What are you talking about? You didn't." It's frustrating. So stealth is not my favorite. I have better ships. Space combat is clicking with me way more than it ever has. So like that's improved in my aspect. But there are just a few things. Like I'm having a few more bugs. I've had like get stuck in conversations where there's no I can't pick anything, but I can
Mm,
only stare at their face. I've had that, and I've had to like quit and reload a few times. It's just some weird stuff going on. Nothing game breaking. I was able to like fix it, but just a little frustration for some
yeah.
things.
Let me tell you the biggest bummer that I've had, and it was a pretty big bummer, not a huge deal, but if I had spent more time getting it, it would have been a bigger deal. The ship that I was using, I had gotten into altercation, as they say, in space, and so I boarded, shot everybody, and stole the ship, basically. And it was a really good like fighter.
Hmm.
It was like a level 14. It had better weapons than mine did, better shields and things like that. And I got a bug where all of a sudden, because I landed at the port or the spaceport, it was just gone. I couldn't see it. Like the ship didn't exist. It was still in my inventory and I could still sell it and get money for it, but I couldn't like get in it. It just looked like there was nothing
Oh,
there and it's a known problem. So I just had to sell
oh,
my ship and I'm back in the regular frontier. Like I'm just doing it. So that was a really shitty bug to get, but I mean it's a Bethesda game. It's still that week one. It is what it is.
yeah, they did put out a patch today, which was it was weird because I downloaded the patch on my ROG Ally. I was playing a little at lunch, and the frame rate tanked. I went from getting like high 30s, 40 to 45 FPS range on my ROG Ally at 720 to like 18 to 25-ish frame. It
Mm,
was basically unplayable after the patch, and I was like, "What's going on? Like, are there drivers I need to?" I was like checking everything. I got home, I plugged it in, I updated the my ASUS app, and then I basically went in and just retoggled on all my settings. I like changed everything back to default and then just reset all the settings to like low and everything. And now I'm getting frame rates it's like above 60 indoors. It's like I don't know what's going on. Did the patch make it
interesting.
better? Did it make it worse? I'm not sure what to believe at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. The patches will keep coming, and again, we're still like, what a week and a half
Week,
out from the launch
yeah.
of this thing. So it's like it's just now getting to the point where it's starting to get patches and stuff. But yeah, got to fix that shit bug, man. That was a bummer.
Ghostly March wants to know: did you set it as your home ship, Sam?
I did. Yeah, I set it as my home ship. I unset it as my home ship, reset it as my home ship. Like I was trying everything, and it just
Nothing.
wasn't there. It was weird.
I had it, the new ship I got that I'm currently using. It's like the best ship I've had. I had it where I tried to run up the ramp to go into like my cockpit, and it was just an invisible wall. I couldn't get into my ship, and I was like,
Oh,
what's happening here?" I've had where Andreja, when you go stealth, she'll turn invisible. Like she has that trait on her character built in. And when we got out of it, her head was still invisible, but the rest of her body wasn't. So she just ran around with me with an invisible head. And I was like, this is disturbing. But
Yeah, that's yeah.
those are those bugs. I'm like, this is kind of funny at the end of the day. Like, this doesn't ruin anything. But yeah, really enjoying Starfield. I know some people, I know the other members of Save the Game Media want to do a review discussion almost. So I might schedule that in the near future with them. But until then, I'll keep talking about Starfield here. So why don't we jump into the news, Sam? Because we got a lot of news this week.
Let's do it.
And I didn't make any of the text for it, so everyone's gonna have to deal with that. Story number one: Unity has announced some changes that are hurting indie developers, and this is going to be our biggest story. So bear with me. So, while Epic's Unreal Engine is undoubtedly the preferred game development engine, many developers, especially indie devs, use Unity. However, Unity announced on Tuesday big changes to their system that have upset their developer community. Unity is implementing a new monthly fee per new game install starting in January. Well, what does that mean? Previously, the engine was licensed to developers on a royalty free model built around subscription tiers. If your revenue or funding was less than $100,000 for the year, you could stay in the free Unity personal license, while Unity Plus was required for those between 100 and 200K, and Unity Pro for anything above that. However, developers will not be expected to pay, sorry, developers will not be expected to pay an additional monthly Unity runtime fee per new game install, including reinstalls and installs across multiple devices on top of their existing license subscription fee. At lower tiers, the fees only kick in. I feel like I messed up something here in the write-in. I apologize, everyone. Basically, what's happening here, I'm going to just throw it out there. Unity is now charging indie developers, if you make above 200,000K per year, they're going to charge you a certain amount of money per install. It was originally per any install, not just the initial one. They since backtracked that. But the big thing here is once this kicks in, Unity personal subs will pay 20 cents per new install, while Pro and Enterprise will pay 15 and 12 respectively. Unity's new fee will be applied retroactively to all games already on the market and that have reached those thresholds. This has outraged developers and brings into question the validity and viability of services like Game Pass and PS Plus for these developers. In a statement last night to Steven Tottilis at Axios, Unity intends to pass the cost for installation fees to Microsoft and Sony for installations through services like Xbox Game Pass and PS Plus. Sam, I know I butchered that a little, but I think I got it out of the way there. How are we feeling about Unity here?
I mean, my thing is that I'm not the expert in this situation because I'm not a game developer. I'm not the indie guy that's making like a crap game over here, like these are the people that we need to turn to and see what the reaction is. And looking on the Twitter timeline to see what the reaction is to this announcement, you see developers across the board from the Among Us Twitter account all the way down to the smallest little indies putting out these statements of like, hey, this is crippling us financially if you do this. This is not going to be something that makes Unity a viable option for future development projects. And I mean, just looking at the FAQ that they have over on the website about the Unity runtime fee, you see fees that range from the smallest indie developers all the way up to the big boys that are out there putting out these big popular indie games. And Unity says they put out multiple different statements on Twitter saying that they say, in fact, more than 90% of our customers will not be affected by this change. That's true. But at the same time, you got to think about how many people just have Unity in general versus the people that are actually using it in their daily lives as their main source of income. Like that probably is that 10% of people. That is your user base that we see and interact with and play their games. It just seems like it was poorly thought out from the future point of view because right now, yes, it is going to bring in more revenue for Unity, but in the future, as indie developers are figuring out, number one, what engine to use, but number two, what they want to learn, like thinking about future developers that are coming into the
Mm-hmm.
main, spotlight. Why would you want to go with the route that has similar tools to other programs that can still help you make a game, but that ultimately charges more money for you to use it? It just doesn't make any sense. They should be making it more open and then profit from the volume and the quality of games that come from that. That's the way that it should be for me, I think.
they're basically punishing indie developers that have a successful game. So if you look at Inner Sloth with Among Us, right? Especially because they said we're going to apply this retroactively. Like Among Us blew up during the course of the pandemic, right? Like that's probably sold millions of copies at this point. So they're probably on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars. People are like, oh, 20 cents doesn't really matter. Well, the game only costs 4.99 or something. Like that 20 cents after you pay the platform holder fees, right? And all these other it does add up. And if you sell lots of copies, you're looking at a good amount of money. In even at the lowest thing, I think I said if you sell 200,000 copies, I think it's 20 cents, you're looking at 40K, I believe it, or something like that, that you have to pay Unity. And for a lot of indie devs, 40K is a big chunk of money. Like that could really hurt your studio to just throw that over to an engine that you didn't have. And I forget one indie dev said it best. They were like talking about how if the restaurants that you went to suddenly just sent you an invoice, it's like, hey, we raised our prices, but you got to retroactively pay us every time you like went here to eat in the
Yeah.
past. And that's kind of how I feel that they're doing. It's really crappy. I know if we're looking at my big concern for the Xbox and PlayStation user bases was the subscription models, where I think the developers of another Crab's Treasure, that Souls Crabs game that I used for the thumbnail here, they brought up like, hey, we're launching into Game Pass next year. And they just said they're going to charge based on downloads. And Game Pass currently has 25 plus million subscribers. So that could cost them more than their Game Pass deal is certainly worth, more than their studio could probably afford if everyone was like, I'm going to check out this Crab Souls game on Game Pass. And now Unity's response is, well, we're going to charge Microsoft. We're going to send them the invoice. And I'm like, I don't think Sony and Microsoft are gonna be that willing to be like, yeah, we'll cover all the indie devs costs for making these games and putting them on our services. Like if they did that, you can guarantee the money they'd be paying the indie devs to get the games on their services. That's gonna drop drastically.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the like the comparisons that have been made on Twitter, and I saw one that was really good as well, and it would be like if your hammer manufacturer charged you every time you drove a nail into a board. Like you bought the hammer, why are
Mhm.
you charging me per nail to continue using this hammer that I paid for? Like if you have a subscription for the service, it makes sense to continue that subscription because I get it, everybody needs their cut of the pie. Like if you have Among Us that's this viral sensation, yeah, you should be able to generate revenue on both ends. Like, yeah, you helped make this just as much. Well, I wouldn't say just as much. You had a part that was important enough to be included in the final product. Like, Unity is a big part of game development, and they do deserve a cut. But demanding this and basically semi holding devs hostage, I've even seen some reports, and again, not the expert here, but they'll waive fees if you go with their ad platform. So, like, if you use their
For
advertising
mobile.
service, you can then, for mobile games, you can then have some of these fees waived. And it's like, what if I don't want to do? You're just holding people hostage or holding their games hostage from really hitting the levels that they should. I mean, like literally, if you the Twitter sphere was saying, if you want to ruin a studio, they have a fraud team set up now. They've clarified, but if you want to ruin a studio, download their game. What a horrible way to be. That's horrendous, disgusting.
Should be the opposite. We should be rewarding downloads
Yeah,
instead of
it's just
punishing.
and then on top of that, if you have to set up a fraud team to help address the potential for an issue you already foresee, then the program you're putting in place probably isn't good. That just sounds like bad idea.
I saw someone ask you like, well, how will you know if it's a legit download or if someone pirates it, right? Because like it's the back end API might still just count as a download. They're like, we're confident. We're not gonna reveal how we're gonna do it, but we're confident. I was like,
So bad.
no one's putting the future of their company, their livelihood in your "we got this, bro" statement on social media. And shout out Captain Logan in the chat. He said Call of the Lamb is just gonna delist their game. I saw that on Twitter. I thought it was a joke. I hope it's a joke. That would be really sad if they just were like, we're not going to pay the fee, just buy it now, or we're not going to, like, the game's gone?
I mean, I haven't seen the Cult of the Lamb thing on Twitter yet, but it wouldn't shock me because right now you're seeing Unity make the announcement tonight, 30 minutes ago, half an hour ago, whatever. They doubled down on it and said, hey, we've seen confusion and conversation around it. They've put out another big, huge, twit longer equivalent on Twitter right now, talking about the clarifications to the program and things like that. It's going to take developers continuing to make noise, continuing to delist their games and have significant impacts on their bottom line. Because right now they're just shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly. Like last night, they shot themselves in the left foot. Tonight, it's the right. Like it's just going to keep going. Uh, it's just a really, really bad move all around. It's sad they haven't backtracked yet. It's sad for developers, and it crushes dreams. I mean, let's call it what it is. Why would you want to have a successful game that ultimately you'll have to pay even more to have success? It just doesn't make sense.
I went to the Call of the Lamb Twitter, and I'm a little confused at what I'm looking at here personally. I'm gonna try sharing this because the people gotta see what I'm looking at. All right, here we go. Show this on the screen. All right, this is their Twitter account. What is going on, Call of the Lamb? Okay, they said right here, buy Call of the Lamb now because we're delisting on January 1st, and they quoted the Unity thing, and then they posted this image of that's an Angry Bird, no?
That is an Angry Bird.
Why are they making out?
I don't know, man. It's the end times. Just you got to do it, I guess. You know, you only live once.
The amount of news channels that 100% believed us have clearly never seen this image before. The sales from what this image generated would potentially bankrupt massive monster. Okay. They're on a different, I don't know what, I should have known. That game was published by Devolver. They're a whole different world over there, But it's disturbing. I really hope Unity comes to their senses. But as Ghostly March in the chat points out, the new Unity head is the same old EA executive who wanted to charge gamers to reload in games. He also had quotes like, if you don't have microtransactions, you're like an effing idiot, and all these other really good stuff, gamer positive things coming from that guy.
Yeah, it's just I wasn't going to bring up the CEO, but like clearly I think that Jez Corden said it where he was like, did the head of Unity and Don Matrick go to the same business school together? Where like there is no focus on the customer or the developer experience or like creating cool stuff. It's like, how can I make as much money as possible without doing any additional work? And that's what the focus is right now, at least from the public point of view.
This is either going to, like, if you're early in your project, I guarantee developers are switching their engine right now if possible. If they're developers that are too late, they're probably in real panic mode right now, because if they put out a game and it like sells 200,000 copies, but that doesn't, like, will that break even? And then they suddenly have to pay a bunch of money, and then they're in the red again. Like, it's a big concern, and I really hope Unity comes to their senses on this one, because it's not a good look. Unity, you're screwing people over. There are big games to use Unity too. I know Atlas used it for Soul Hackers 2. I think some free to play games, a lot of free to play games use Unity.
Genshin Impact.
Really?
Genshin Impact is on Unity. Like, that's the big example.
I mean, they're fine. They make $8 billion every time they release a new character, but
they are fine. Yeah.
Besides the point. All right.
Yeah, and then also like I think that in the FAQ they said that the fees change based on free to play availability. Like, it's important to remember these games that do not reach the revenue threshold, including games that are not monetized in any way, are not required to pay per install fees. So like, I don't know if I'm reading that wrong, but it's straight from the FAQ. You're telling me that you're going to charge the crab game that's a Souls game, but Genshin Impact doesn't have to pay any fees? Like, what's, I don't know. Is it capitalism at work? Just a weird statement.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So keep everyone tweet at Unity and let them know how much they suck about this. But you know what else might suck, depending on where you fall on this? Embracer's thinking about selling Gearbox, Sam. So, just days after shutting down Volition, rest in peace, Embracer Group could be gearing up for another big move. According to Reuters, Embracer is considering selling potentially their most important asset in Gearbox Entertainment. Embracer acquired Gearbox for $1.3 billion just 2 years ago in 2021. Bloomberg also reports Gearbox is considering going independent.
I mean, it continues this trend of Embracer Group trying to recover from scaling up too quick. They flew too close to the sun. Now the wings have melted and they're crashing back down. And I think the Gearbox considering going independent could potentially be the best case scenario. Like we think about, or at least I think about Bungie trying to go independent there before signing on with Activision. Then that deal crumbled. Then they got picked up by Sony. Like Bungie's core success with Destiny came from the period that they were um, obviously, they grew with Activision, but they fixed a lot of problems when they were independent before being acquired by Sony within Destiny. And so I would love to see that happen with Gearbox, where they go independent, they make their own choices. Again, hopefully they're wise choices. But and then from there figure out what's next. But Embracer Group, I mean, it's just continuing to disintegrate before our eyes, and it's actually kind of wild to see. I've never quite seen anything like what's happening with Embracer Group.
I think I said a few weeks ago when we were talking about Embracer Group that I was like, they're gonna shut most of the studios down and focus on their big hitters, right? Like Gearbox, Crystal Dynamics. And now I'm like, if they're selling Gearbox that they bought for 1.3 billion, which is probably their biggest studio, right? Because they handle not only Borderlands, which is a huge IP, they also do some publishing. Gearbox does. I think they put out Remnant 2 this year, if I remember correctly. They handle some publishing of some other AA games for them. So this would be a big loss for Embracer, not only for revenue purposes, but if they can't like you can't shut down Gearbox. Like they don't have they're not going to have the authority to do that. Like that wouldn't happen. That would be dumb. And then if they're selling if they're selling Gearbox, I fully expect them to be like Crystal Dynamics is also up for sale because like at that point anyone could go, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about selling Gearbox, that's like the end of a yard sale where you're trying to move the big items, you know? And I mean, that paints the picture. The reports that came out earlier this year, whenever the Saudi deal fell through, that seemed like a panicked Embracer Group.
Mm.
And it's hard to really understand just how panicked they really were because we're just getting these reports of what's happening on the inside. You're seeing them potentially selling Gearbox. That is full on disaster mode. Like they were betting more than anybody really realized on this Saudi deal going through. And without it, the future of the entire organization seems like it's kind of up to question. I mean, legitimately, like, will Embracer Group be around in 3 years? Certainly not to the scale they were before, clearly.
It's not looking good. And I've been one that's like I kind of rooted for Embracer. I wanted them to succeed. I liked their like we're gonna make AA games with a few AAAs here and there. It's just not going the way anyone expected. This Saudi deal really seems to have killed them, and now they're just trying to get back anything they can. I don't think they sell Gearbox for what they bought them for, like 1.3 billion. I don't think Gearbox goes for 1.3 billion.
Is it
Um,
worth it now? I mean, thinking about the projects that have been put out, I don't know what the valuation process is for a game studio, but thinking about Gearbox from a couple of years ago compared to today, I mean, we're coming off of a okay DLC, a movie on Borderlands that's kind of like don't know what's going on there. Publishing arm seems to be doing pretty good, but like I think it's a mixed bag. I don't know if you like you said, you're going to be able to get that money back.
I think Gearbox has put out Tiny Tina Wonderlands and New Tales from the Borderlands. I think those are only two games they've like developed, I believe, unless they didn't even do New Tales from the Borderlands. I honestly don't know who makes that team. Uh, those I think are the games they put out since they were acquired, and neither of those. I think Tiny Tina's did all right. I think it sold over 1 million copies. I don't think New Tales from the Borderlands really set the world on fire. So I can't see they published Remnant 2. Yeah, I was right about that. So I can't see them going for 1.3 billion. We know they bought Crystal Dynamics for like 300 million in like a group sale with like Eidos and forget the other one they shut down, right? So I would. Who do you think would get Gearbox if you had to pick someone, Sam?
It's so hard to say just because I don't feel like they really fit into the fabric of what any big player is doing right now. Like, I don't feel like Microsoft, number one, is in a position to make another big acquisition like that in the current state of Activision Blizzard. Like, they're already trying to get that deal closed. They don't need any more scrutiny. Looking at Sony, I just don't think that Gearbox really fits into where they're focusing. Like, right now, we're going on live service games, which I guess you could consider Borderlands a live service game, but does the vibe of Borderlands fit with what Sony wants from a first party? Like right now, they're very dialed in on like they acquired Bungie. I can't explain it, but it fits with the PlayStation vibe. Like Destiny always aligned really closely with PlayStation. And then looking beyond that, you've got the traditional third person action Sony game. Like we all know what they make. And I just don't think Borderlands is that. So, I mean, I think going independent is probably their best bet. I mean, maybe Gearbox could get picked up by Epic. Like maybe they get acquired by Epic
Oh.
Games. Feels like it could be a good relationship because I know they had the Borderlands 3 PC deal already. Like clearly there's some relationship there. I could see that maybe being an acquisition.
Epic's got spending money.
Yeah.
My head immediately went to I feel like this is the Chinese 10-cent NetEase type deals.
I could see that.
I could see them coming in, just throwing down some money, being like, we're a big shareholder now. Like here's cash, go make Borderlands.
Yeah, I could easily see that being the case too. I would love to see it. I don't know why I feel like Epic and Gearbox just it feels right, and I can't explain why, but I could see that being a thing. But I also could totally see one of those big outside investors coming in and being like, "Yep, that's mine now."
All right. Well, best of luck to Embracer. I'll be interested to see who else gets shut down, who else is for sale, and what studios actually remain under their portfolio as we continue through this. But let's talk about some more positive news. Sam, Starfield is selling consoles. According to GamesIndustry.biz, Xbox Series X and S console sales jumped 76% during Starfield's launch week in the UK, making it the biggest week in terms of Series X and S sales in the UK. The new 1 terabyte Black Series S also posted a 20% increase in console sales versus its launch week. In total, the Series S contributed to 24% of the total number of consoles sold during Starfield's launch, which Series X saw a 46% increase on its own. So we know Series S is the majority of consoles out there, but it seems people really want the Series X for Starfield. That 46% increase overall, a 76% increase on both consoles combined. Starfield, Phil, turns out good games do sell consoles.
It does indeed to seem like good games do sell consoles. I mean, it's great to see because I hope that what we're seeing right now is the beginning of a new trend for Xbox where a big game comes out, you sell consoles that are available on store shelves that are ready and waiting to be picked up. Like there are no more supply chain issues. There's no more waiting for the new games to drop, the big releases and things like that. Like we've got Starfield, we've got Forza Motorsport coming out next year. We've got Hellblade. We've got plenty of other games that are in the pipeline. We're finally going to start this cycle of good games, people buy hardware, people enjoy games. Like that's the trifecta. And I think this is the first reflection of that. We're finally getting that.
This is super positive. I know it's just the UK, but you got to remember the UK is, I think, the second largest Xbox market, if I remember correctly. Obviously, US is number one, and we don't get details like this in the US. I would love to see how it's selling in the US. But for the UK, who is primarily PlayStation focused, every time I always see like, oh, a game is sold 80% on PlayStation in the UK this week. To see these numbers is a very positive sign. It's great that the Series S, the 1 terabyte, seems to be hitting with consumers. I think that extra storage apparently is really going a long way. The Series X increasing by 46% on its own is also a great sign. You know, we want people to get the most powerful hardware to play the tentpole title, right? And that's what Starfield is meant to be. So I see people sitting there like, oh, what's the best way to play this? And they're choosing the Series X, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what people are looking for in today's day and age. We're out of that first run of consoles of this cycle. Like we're getting away from the launch window. And so now the people that were getting in on day one have chosen the X or the S. And so now you're getting to the people that are potentially having saved up some money, that are wanting to get into the generation and experience the best of the best now that we're hitting on all cylinders. And the X is going to give you that. X going to give it to you. And so now
Excellent.
they're picking one up.
Well, congrats to them. But let's talk about something else, Sam. Game Pass Core launches tomorrow. And as we previously discussed on this show, Xbox Live is being rebranded to Game Pass Core September 14th. When you're listening, in case you're not listening live, uh, you will now be able to play the following games at that tier because I think it's 36 in total. I didn't count them, but I believe I saw that number. So if you don't want the full library, you can play Among Us, Astroneer, Celeste, Dead Cells, Descenders, Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Fable Anniversary, Fallout 4 and 76, Firewatch, Forza Horizon 4, Gangs Beast, Gears 5, Golf with Your Friends, Grounded, Halo 5, and Halo Wars 2, Hellblade, Human Fall Flat, Inside, Limbo, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Overcooked 2, Payday 2, Power Wash Simulator, Psychonauts 2, Slay the Spire, Spiritfarer, which just got added back to Game Pass today, Stardew Valley, State of Decay 2, so Superliminal, Elder Scrolls Online, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, Unpacking, and Vampire Survivors. Xbox says they will update this list 2 to 3 times per year. I gotta say, that's a pretty good list. I think if they were to we need a sample of our Game Pass catalog, right? You have some big AAA first party titles in here. You have some classic first party titles in here with Fable Anniversary. You have the indie games in here hitting with Inside, Limbo, Slay the Spire, Stardew Valley, Shredder's Revenge, obviously. But then you have almost the games that are like, hey, we're making sequels to these. Like maybe you should check these out. And then when the new ones come out, maybe you up that to the bigger tier. That's where my head is at looking at these titles.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a marketing tool, but like you said, we've got some cool standout titles here. Looking at the first party of like Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5 Game of the Year edition, love seeing that kind of stuff. Vampire Survivors. I mean, I know that it's a cheap game, but it's one of those viral sensations. You've got the quality, like you said, of Limbo and Inside, but there's also a nice variety of things like Dead Cells and Celeste, Astroneer. And so it gives players that don't want to go all in on Game Pass a small sample of that experience. It's almost like a demo for Game Pass of here is the breadth of content you're going to be able to play. If you do want to subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate, you're getting a little bit of everything. And I mean, you've got massive games like Fallout 4 that'll give you hundreds of hours of content. Um, just a really, really good value here from Game Pass Core.
Yeah, this is better than what I expected it to be. I know they gave a little preview of like half of these titles, but this is a very good selection. It's funny when you see things like Payday 2 and Payday 3 is launching the Game Pass in like 2 weeks, right? So it's clear marketing strategy right there with some of these titles. But if you were like, I only want online, like Xbox Live Gold, right? If that's the only thing you've known and the only thing you care about, to have these titles available to you, you can't complain. I stand firm, this is a better quality than games with gold.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, the only benefit with games with gold is that you got to keep the Xbox 360 games in perpetuity, but at the same time, how many people are going to be going back and playing those 360 games on a weekly, monthly, or even yearly basis versus checking out Forza Horizon 4, seeing the new seasonal content that comes out every couple of weeks for that, going and playing Halo 5 Guardians for a little while, checking out Payday 2 with friends, going into Psychonauts 2, which is still a new game in the grand scheme of
Hmm.
things. I mean, like, I would rather check out these games and then on a quarterly basis get new content flowing in there than have to rely on the roll of the dice every month and then just get an embarrassingly blank graphic of two Xbox games with gold games. Like it was just sad at the end.
Games we've never heard of. I think I played one. No, I played two Xbox games of gold in the last like 2 years.
Yeah,
So
I redeemed them just because, like, especially
why
with the
not?
360 games, why would I not? And with the Xbox One games for sure. But there were some that were just so bad and that I would never play. I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
even want it in my library. I'm good. You keep that.
That's me with PlayStation Plus this month, where it's like Saints Row. I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
nope. Not for
Not
me.
even Saints Row. You're not even going to redeem Saints Row, huh?
No,
No.
not no.
All right. I
There
think
was
I would keep that one in the library, but I would just look at it from afar.
Okay, okay. I can't do it. And I redeem a lot of garbage, okay? I have the Epic Game Store open like every 2 weeks, claiming my free games in there. I'm like, I never heard of this, but here we go.
Yeah.
So let's jump to listener questions to round out the show. First, we have I think his first time writing in, Darth Stridius. He says, "Do you expect the strong finish of this year with Starfield and Forza to continue into the new year? What games do you think will be out in the first half next year?"
Ooh, tough one. I think we've talked about this a little bit before. I think we both said that Hellblade would eventually be a latter half of 2024. That's probably a
Mm,
fall game. So
yeah.
I think it's kind of up in the air what's coming out in the spring. Like, obviously, been a wild day at work, so the Xbox games aren't top of mind, but there's got to be something filling that gap. But even then, like looking back at the roster of games that have come out so far, I'm sure that the quality of life updates are going to continue to be a thing for a lot of the Xbox first party stuff. But what games do you think are on the way?
If I had to pick one, like, the way I'm looking at it is like we know. I think I'm pretty confident Hellblade or Avowed are going to be first half, second half. Like those are their two big 2024 titles. I don't know the order. I think Hellblade is probably the second half, just to hit that like big fall release, and then Avowed will spring. I think would be good. But Towerborn, if I had to pick one right now, is
Mm,
probably the one I'm thinking first half of the year, just because I didn't think it was as far as along as it was, but then you see all these previews coming out. I know Windows Central, I think, just dropped another one today. Like it seems like this game's in a pretty good condition. It's getting pretty good reviews. So in my mind, this should be a first half of the year title.
yeah, I think that Towerborn, like that's a pretty good guess. If we're having previews this early on, I think that it's definitely on the way. I'm curious. I'm looking at a list that I found on TrueAchievements.com of like what every Xbox first party studio is working on, and I'm looking at Tango GameWorks, and I know that they came out with Hi-Fi Rush this, or not Hi, yeah, Hi-Fi Rush this year. I don't know why when I said that out loud, it sounded like a Disney show, not the game that was really successful this year. I don't know. Anyways, I'm thinking about Big Time Rush. That's what I'm
That's
thinking
a
about.
Nickelodeon show.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Big Time. Anyways,
Great show.
um, Tango GameWorks came out with Hi-Fi Rush this year. I was a big fan of Ghostwire Tokyo when it landed on Xbox
Same.
earlier this year. I really, really enjoyed that. So I would love to see a Tokyo Game Show. Like, are they going to debut maybe a tangential project, maybe a sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo that could come out next year? But looking at what's announced, I mean, I think we have Avowed coming in 2024. I think that's confirmed. So that feels
Hmm.
like a summer game. I think Towerborn just makes sense thinking about what's in between a huge fall with Starfield and Forza Motorsport. The big hits can't keep coming forever. Like we've got to have a break at some point, and Towerborn feels like a January through March game.
We're also people forget about it, but Contraband, that game from Avalanche that was announced years ago at this point. That's got to hit sometime, right? Like,
I think that's a ways out.
really? You
I do
think it's
not
that
think
far out?
Contraband.
Wow.
That's also one of those games where I'm not biting at the bit to get it. Like
I
I
don't
don't
know what it
really.
is. Like, we have that one weird teaser trailer, and
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
think it's gonna be kind of like, oh, what's that game that PlayStation's working on right now? It's like a heist game where you're all trying to. It's the one that Jade Raymond's working on. I forget what it's called.
Oh, Fair Games? Is that what it's
Yes, Fair
called?
Games. Yeah,
With
I
the
think
dollar
Contraband is
sign.
yeah, I think Contraband is going to be a lot like that I hope not because I don't have faith in Fair Game. But I feel like Contraband is going to be like one of those team collaborative Payday 3 style situations and I just don't I don't need that personally, but we'll see what happens.
Maybe they can call it Contraband, and then like instead of an A, they can have like an 8 or something like Contra. I don't
Ooh.
know.
Yeah, I hope that whenever you talk trash in the game lobby, you get contraband and then
Yeah.
you can't play anymore. I really
Oh.
hope that's where they go with that.
All
Also,
right.
The Outer Worlds too. Forgot about that one. That is on the way.
Yeah, that's like 2025, 6, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Personally, yeah. You brought up Tokyo Game Show, so let's jump over to Taylor's question. He says, "What are your predictions for announcements of JRPGs slash other Japanese games coming to Xbox from the Tokyo Game Show? For every game you predict, you have to specify Game Pass day one or not. Let's see how correct you guys are on September 21st."
This is not my expertise. This is not. I'm not the guy for this. Everything I guess is going to be wrong. I'm just going to defer this one to you and just hear what your thoughts are, because all of my stuff is going to be unintelligible garbage. So go for it.
This is hard. First of all, I really liked the Tokyo Game Show last year from Xbox. Ethan and I did a live react at 5 a.m. in the morning for it. It was pretty good though. We got things like Guilty Gear Strive announcement, Blaze Blue, Cross Tag, games that I've really enjoyed this year came to Game Pass. We also got the Deathloop Game Pass announcement there. This one is hard because if I'm thinking of JRPGs and I'm like, oh, they should work on getting things that we don't have. Like I think of like Falcom and series like that, or things like Genshin Impact, which I know isn't a JRPG, but like Asian style games. Like we should get some sort of things like that. And those seem too pie in the sky for me. As much as they would be awesome, I don't really know how hype they're going. So I go back to the Square Enix announcement where they say they're going to commit. If we can get Final Fantasy anything, right? Like I don't know, I doubt 16 can be announced this soon. Final Fantasy 7 remake, I don't know what's going on there. So anything Final Fantasy would be a huge pop, but I'm going to go and say Octopath Traveler 2.
Ooh, I mean, I would like to see that. I think that would be nice. We've talked about it before. It's not going to be at the top of my playlist, but it would be great to see all of them together on each platform, wherever they are.
I think it would be exciting enough that like okay, it's like a cool announcement, and I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. After and it would go a long way to reaffirm like we Square when they were like, oh, we're committing to Xbox. That would show that they mean it, right? Like here's Octopath Traveler 2, one of our biggest games this year is going to come to Xbox.
Yeah, I would love to see the Final Fantasy Pixel collection that we talked.
Ooh, that's a great shout,
Yeah.
actually.
I would love to. I think that's going to be my prediction. I think I would love to see that. And I feel like that fits that same, I guess, level of announcement that
Yeah,
Square Enix could show good faith in the announcement that was made and say, hey, this is coming today to Game Pass. Ooh, that'd be a big win. I would love to see that.
I would. I would like some Sonic.
Mm,
Sega's a Japanese developer. Get us some Sonic games on Game Pass.
Frontiers on Game Pass.
Frontier. I already. Listen, the DLC's coming. Perfect. Throw it in Game Pass DLC. All right.
It'd be a good one. It'd be a good one. I was looking at
Yeah.
the announcements last year. They had like Exo Primal came out of Tokyo Game Show, which obviously had its moment in the sun earlier in the summer and then kind of faded away. Played it twice, didn't enjoy either time.
Nice.
And then Forza Horizon also got like a 10th anniversary update thing.
Hmm.
So I mean the sky's the limit. But as far as the Tokyo Game Show centric titles, yeah, I think Final Fantasy is my bet. I would love to see that happen.
Ghosty March asks, new Monster Hunter. Here's the thing. I think we all need to. Tokyo Game Show isn't like a giant event, right? Like for Xbox. Okay. Like if they're going to show off a new Monster Hunter, it's going to be at a Capcom showcase. It's
Yeah.
like that's where that's going to want to be. Same thing where I'm out here like that's why I'm not predicting things like Kojima's game and like the next Persona 6 and like all these crazy out of the pie in the sky predictions. It's just not that level of showcase. I don't think personally.
Yeah, I gave it a quick Google just to see what other people were saying. And Marcus Stewart over at Game Informer, by the way, support Game Informer. They got a great crew over there. They're doing good things. They said that the most likely game to appear is Final Fantasy 14. That's a really good call out since it's coming next spring. Like you'll get the
Yeah.
preview of that. Like you'll definitely see that. So we'll see what comes from there.
Huh. All right. Let's jump over to Sam Heaney's question. He says, with the main criticisms around Starfield being on the technical side, do you ever expect Bethesda game studios to shift away from the creation engine or completely rebuild it for titles further down the line like Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5? Is that the one consistent thing holding these Bethesda games back from being true masterpieces?
It's so hard because I think about the Bethesda jank that has a love-hate relationship, or that I have a love-hate relationship with, where once you get a polished, like if Starfield was polished, it would obviously have gotten potentially better reception, but it wouldn't have felt like a Bethesda game. Like you were talking about the head glitch you had earlier. That's a
Mm-hmm.
Bethesda thing.
It
Like
is.
dude floating way above your spaceship and you can't interact with him. That's a Bethesda thing. And I think that if they moved away from the creation engine, it will be after Todd retires or Todd leaves the studio and that's kind of put into new hands. Because if you do have new management that comes in and says, hey, I want to make this a more polished game studio where we put out something that is entirely bugless, that has a completely all-encompassing feel to it. I think that then you would move into Unreal Engine 5 or whatever the newest engine is at the time, not Unity. But
Not Unity.
not Unity. But I could easily see them shifting away in like 10 years, in like 15 years. But until then, I think the creation engine, it's just too much of what Bethesda is at this point to not use it.
So I get the question, but I will say they just redid the creation engine. Like Starfield's made on Creation Engine 2.0. Like they just rebuilt their engine. Like this is the upgraded version. And I personally think Creation Engine is good. I don't really have all the like I've seen people call Starfield ugly and I'm like I don't know what game you guys are playing, but I don't think Starfield is ugly in any way, shape, or form. Like I personally think the character models look really good. I had someone yell at me and be like, "Well, they don't look as good as Final Fantasy 16," and I'm like, "Those are two completely different art styles and games. I don't know why we're comparing these things. Like, how did we get here? You know." I like Creation Engine for what it does. I feel like it allows them to do what they do because they want everything to be interactive. Like you're not going to get Unreal Engine doing the things that Creation Engine does, right? Like they're different tools. And Ghostly March, I think, puts it really well. The Creation Engine has a lot of positives, though, and it's part of the charm. I don't want every game to feel exactly the same and all run on the same engine. That's a great point because you look at things, even on the Sony side, they don't use the same engine. You got the Decima engine over there. Some use Unreal, some use other in-house studio engines. Like I like when games are diversified. I don't personally think the creation engine holds them back, and I think Starfield is kind of up in the masterpiece for me. Like I really love this game.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I think you bring up a good point of like the potential limitations that come with everybody using the same engine. Because I think the way that I see it, again, I'm not a game developer, so I don't know what they need and how they use the tools they use. But whatever vision the developer has and whatever tools can help make that happen the easiest and the most polished way that they have the vision for, then it's what they should use. And if that happens to be Creation Engine or Creation Engine 2.0 or Unreal or even whatever you need, make it happen and follow whatever you know you need. I mean, it's kind of like how a lot of these Xbox studios are like, hey, we'll give you, or Xbox goes to these studios and says, we'll give you whatever resources you need to make the game you want to make. That's the kind of engine process that they should, or selection process the developers should probably go through to figure out what they actually need to make their game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. I agree. So, listen, and now that they have one game under their belt with the new engines, like they know things, they know pitfalls and what works, what doesn't work when they're developing Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 in 2036, right? Like, because that's when Fallout 5 is coming.
Was that an Activision Blizzard acquisition tease? Pitfall? Do you know something, Kevin? Do you know
Pitfall.
something?
Yes, 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 yes. The
Okay.
critically acclaimed,
Yeah.
beloved Pitfall game is coming
Yeah.
back to modern
Pitfall
consoles.
remastered.
Okay, remastered 240p. Uh, it's Kyle writes in with the success of the pay to play early approach. Do you expect to see this going forward for more games? Do you think this is a benefit and positive to further offset Game Pass costs?
This is not going anywhere anytime soon because it is continuing to sell incredibly well. And also, it's not really problematic. Like if you want to dish out, if you have Game Pass, $35, or if you don't, $100 plus to play the game 5 days early, then there's not really a problem with that. Like you can use your money how you want. And if you don't want it, then you can hold out and just get it a couple of days later. So I mean, it's the same thing with the Crew Motorfest. If you do want to go in early access and get that a few days early, you totally can. But if not, you can be like everybody else and pay $70 day of. So I think it's not going anywhere, and it's definitely a benefit, I think, as well to offsetting those Game Pass costs and generating more revenue because it's like what Phil and the team at Xbox have always said. Like they're giving players more options of how they want to experience and access the games they want to play. And this is an example of that.
I think I said almost that exact statement a few weeks ago when we were talking about early access and whether you and I were going to do the early access. And that I thought it was a good approach to offset the cost of day one for these big AAA titles. And I will say, I agree with Sam. It's not going anywhere. We've seen Hogwarts Legacy do it. We've seen Diablo 4 do it. Lies of P, if you buy the digital deluxe edition, you get 72-hour early access. Like, even games of the double A quality are doing this now. Like, this is just a thing that is going to keep continuing to happen. I personally don't care, because like, if you are that excited or you want to support a game that much that you're like, the extra $20-$30 doesn't matter to me if I can get that a few days more enjoyment out of it, all the more power to you. I've done it for games I've been excited for. I did for Diablo because I was like, that's fine. I do think that as long as it comes with something else, like Starfield, you get the DLC, right? So like,
Yes.
if you were gonna buy the DLC anyway, it kind of is like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Like, why not play it early?
You're right on the money with that. Like, it can't just be you're paying $35 to play the game a couple of days early. Like, there's got to be some additional perk to it. And I feel like one good example of this is I find the early access model to be really beneficial for a game like Call of Duty every year, because you get 1 week of early access to the campaign. And so if you do want to do like the, race to prestige or whatever that people normally do with the Call of Duty, you don't have to worry about not playing the campaign, because you can get access to it a week before the actual game launches. They
Hmm.
play through it, enjoy it, and then enjoy the multiplayer. So it's kind of like a two hit. Like, I feel like that's done really well. And you usually get an additional bonus with that of some kind of DLC or expansion or whatever.
Yeah, and people seem to like it. Like, I think it was number 2 or something in the UK. The box with the code, the $100 box in the UK was like number 2 on their selling charts, or right. And then we know like 2 million people did it digitally or something. Like, millions of people were like, yeah, I'm gonna pony up to get this game early for Starfield, and they're gonna do it for other games. They did it for Hogwarts Legacy. They did it for Forza Horizon 5. It's just the way it is. And it's a value versus time thing, right? I think of it that way a lot. Like, I and this is a different example, but I pre-ordered Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. And if you pre-order it, you get 4-day early access. And I'm like, that's great. Just the
Yeah.
pre-order gets me 4-day early access. But you know what? If they had been like $10 gets you 4-day early access, I would have been like, that is like $2-ish a day. Sounds great. Like, I can do like that. You go to the movies and you pay $18 for a 2-hour experience. All right. So like, it's comparable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. There's plenty of value there.
All right. Last 2 questions. Brendan Myers, aka the Winter Gamer, writes in. He says, how do you make the most of the Xbox ecosystem? Is there anything that can make your Xbox experience better?
Right now, I don't think that for me there's anything that could make it better than it is. I think that we're getting into that cadence of better games and higher quality games, and so we're already seeing that kind of hit. So I think that's my biggest thing, is the first party games continuing to improve and build themselves out. But how do I make the most of the Xbox ecosystem? I think it's an approach with Game Pass and having an open mind, because if something lands on Game Pass and it's not something I would typically play, I don't just shut it down and say that it's not something that I want. I think
Mm-hmm.
that even going into things like Octopath Traveler, when it landed, it was cool for me to dive in and experience that. Any kind of the indies that come out, even things that are coming out of the Tokyo Game Show. Talked about Ghostwire Tokyo. That is not typically a me game. I would not have picked that up usually, and it became one of the best games that I played this year for my personal taste. Like, I really, really enjoyed it, and I think that's what I've enjoyed the most with playing Xbox the past couple of years in particular, is that it is a discovery engine of new content that I wouldn't have otherwise found. And so I think that going in once again with an open mind, and just wanting to experience new games and try new things is really the biggest pointer that I could give anybody.
We could go on a while on how to make the most of the Xbox ecosystem. Like, something I've done in recent months was started doing Microsoft rewards.
Yeah.
Made my default Bing, so I get those search points. I do the daily check-in quest things every day to get points, and I have like almost 15,000 points after 2 months. And I know that isn't optimal. I think Bao is was telling me that she gets that in like a month. But those are things that like you do those, you can earn your Game Pass sub every month just by doing that. You can earn money off of games. You can earn a bunch of different rewards. So that's one way that I think gets you in and makes you feel like you're getting more value by being in the ecosystem. I think one of the big things for me getting more value is investing in that. Like in here is my ROG ally in this very case. Things like that. Like I think Brendan has a Logitech G Cloud, so he knows what I'm talking about when I say that. When you get the peripheral devices, the things that I'm not at my Xbox, but I'm having my Xbox experience away from there. I think that enhances the ecosystem. The being able to play on my PC or my phone on my Ally on your G Cloud. Those things are important and make you feel like, wow, my investment in here is really being rewarded because like I can just play wherever I want. Um, how can I make it a better experience? I want more play anywhere titles. I want
Yeah.
for third party specifically because like when I look at my library, I'm like, well, how come two of the Yakuza games are play anywhere, but the other ones aren't? Like it seems very weird the titles they pick and choose to do play anywhere with. I don't know how that decision gets made, but I would love to see that expanded to open up that ecosystem more and give people those more options. Because I think Xbox has a phenomenal ecosystem. Like it really does pay. Like it feels good to be engaged with.
Yeah, I would fully agree. I think that being able to be a part of the ecosystem, like you said earlier, is one of the biggest things, no matter where you are, and finding new ways to experience that's definitely a big key.
Yeah, and I don't get that with like I'm a part of the other like I'm a part of PlayStation, I'm a part of Nintendo, right? And I don't get that same sense from them. Like my Switch, I'm like, oh, I got the Nintendo Switch Online Family Plan, but I don't feel like I
Yeah.
can engage with Nintendo. PlayStation, a little bit more. They have PlayStation Stars, which I think was like a baby step into like the
Was it?
rewards, a
Was
baby
it?
step. It was like a little
Okay.
infant toddler toe, like
Did you redeem your
crossing the line.
PlayStation 3 keyboard, digital
I
collectible?
don't do the stupid collectibles, all right? But like
Oh, okay.
you get the coins, all right, and then you can use the coins to buy games or gift cards. That is engaging people more. The collectibles are dumb, all right, and that's where
Yeah.
they're like pull the baby toe back. They're making bigger mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
The closest thing they got to the comprehensive ecosystem that Xbox is standing up is whenever PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 4 games were able to, like, there were two different versions. It might have even been PlayStation 3, but there was like the PS3 version, then the Vita version came out, and there was some like cross buy between them.
yep.
And so
Hmm.
being able to play not necessarily anywhere because it was two different versions, but you got both versions of the game, that was a big win for them. But Xbox is taking that and multiplying it to where they're just making things more accessible. And so I totally agree, like digging in on PC, logging in via Xbox through things like Halo Infinite on Steam, like experiencing their ecosystem no matter where you are, is a huge benefit.
Yeah, I would love PlayStation to even support their PS Plus app on PC more because I finally got it working on my Ally, and the controls only work in some games, and I don't know why. Like, what is? And you can only stream them. Like, why can't we make some downloadable versions through the app? Even like you have to be subscribed to the tiers to download them. Make something, PlayStation. I'm begging you. Like get people invested in your ecosystem more than they are right now. Well, at least I am. I know other people really like
Yeah.
it. So
If you want to ask for it, by the way, like on top of that, just as a general statement, you've got to make that known because right now, like, why would PlayStation feel compelled to add these additional functionalities if people are just happy buying whatever they want when they want it versus having to download it through a subscription? And so I think you're seeing them react with PlayStation Plus changes, not including price increases. Like that just sucks. But in general, like the improvements to their subscription services, that's a correction due to the market itself. And so I think you'll see more of that kind of stuff in the next couple of years.
last time I asked for something from a gaming company, though, we got the Wii U. So
Oh,
like, I was like, Nintendo, I really want like a different the Wii's not really vibing with me. Could we get something different? And then they're like, we gotcha.
We got you on that. Yeah. Here's
And then
a Kindle Fire with some buttons on it that you can connect to your TV. Yeah.
genuinely didn't know it was a different console for multiple years after. I thought it was just a handheld device to pair with my Wii.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people did. I think you're
Yeah.
not alone there.
Yeah. Thanks, Nintendo. Anyway, last question of the show goes to Turbo. He says, "How important is the Game Pass? How important is it that Game Pass games coming quick and fast after the release of Starfield to keep potential new users interested?" So he wants to know, how important is it for Game Pass to keep on rolling?
I think it's incredibly important just because of the diverse lineup of games and the diverse lineup of players. I mean, Starfield is definitely not for everybody, in the same way that Forza Motorsport isn't going to be for everybody. And so that's why getting games in there like Liza P here in a couple of days is really important because while somebody might not have any interest in playing Forza or Starfield or any of the games that have come out this year, Ghostwire Tokyo, Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Redfall, like things like that have come out. Liza P might be their thing. They might be looking for that Bloodborne Xbox equivalent, and that's going to be what they go for. And there are, a ton of different options there, but it's keeping those options fresh and bringing back things like you mentioned, Spiritfarer coming back, giving people more time to play those games. Yeah, I think that it's important to keep them rolling.
Yeah, we have big announcements like every month, except maybe December. But we have the next few months. We have big Game Pass games and quite a few of them. So the momentum is there. It's rolling. It's keeping going into the next year. I doubt it slows down because we know Xbox is on track. That Phil Spencer's made a point. Like they're confident that they're going to have a game every quarter, right? Like so you're going to have stuff to play on Game Pass, whether it's first party or these indie games, the double A titles that they're getting in with these deals. Or who, unless I'm wrong, and then 2024 comes in, they're like, screw you guys, we're doing Game Pass drops once a quarter. You got plenty of games. I doubt that's ever going to happen because they want to get that, but like that's the only way that Game Pass slows down from here, in my opinion. Unless the games suck, I guess that's a positive. Like Avowed could be crap, right? Like Hellblade 2 could be. I would cry. I would film a video of me just laying on the floor crying if Hellblade 2 was bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's always potential for any games to be bad, but at the same time, I think that the announcements are such a big part of Xbox's marketing cadence now, where I mean, I joke, but Tuesday's the new controller color reveal, Thursday's the new Game Pass reveal, and like that's your weekly rotation. And then in between that, you've got them putting out little fun quirks and quips and things like that. So I think it's just a core of who Xbox is as a company right now, and they're going to keep putting out these Game Pass games and you're going to have some months that are better than others. We've had bad months before or lackluster months, but then you're going to have some bangers like what we have here with September, October, potentially November, like things that are coming. We've got a lot to look forward to.
All right. Well, Sam, that'll do it for this week's show. Before we go, I gotta say, I'm gonna ask Xbox for something. Developer Direct, all right? We got a State of Play and a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. Same day. Xbox, you got to get in here. Tokyo Game Show, I guess, kind of counts as a
Yeah.
showcase. All right, yeah. So, all right, maybe we don't need one. I retract my request. Xbox, you're doing fine. Thank you
Well,
very much.
I think Xbox is doing fine. I would love to see more developer directs though. Like we have not gotten a lot. It's also been a weird season. Like they're fitting in this new show. We had Summer Game Fest. We have Tokyo Game Show coming up. We had Gamescom opening night live. So like, is there a need for another digital show right now? No, probably not. But come November, like Game Awards isn't really like, it would be cool to see something before the end of the year. So I'm there with you partially. I understand what you're saying.
Partially. Okay. Well, Sam, where can people find you if they want more of your content?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm back. Welcome back to.
He's back.
I'm
We
back.
got him.
X gave it to me. You can find me on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, all that stuff. Jam Pack Sam, putting out YouTube content, TikTok content, all that good stuff throughout the week. Get the podcast on Sundays, but spending time right here with you every Thursday, Wednesday today is always a good part of the week.
Yeah, it threw me off. I thought yesterday was Wednesday. I literally logged into a Zoom meeting that wasn't happening a day early.
Oh
So
yeah, love doing that.
I've been thrown off all week. But you can find me over on X at the Muffin Man. That's a 1-7 I and 0-7A. Follow us at Save Game Media over on X. Stay up to date with all of our latest content. Until next week, we'll see you though. Goodbye.